We received a lot of messages from folks asking us where the scoop has been for the last 2 weeks. And contrary to popular belief and all the pictures on our social media, we have not been on vacation enjoying some lovely family time in the sun. No, we've been dealing with an ongoing legal issue with the Turin Giants, legal about the beautiful bald bastard name. And I think the best words to kind of summarize what came out of that is from this letter I got from Turn Giants Legal that says that due to copyright compliance and the family friendly nature of this program, we are no longer able to use the beautiful bald bastard name. And as good company men, we will revert to the scoop. But because we know all of you love this name, we are going to now activate the free the beautiful bald bastard hashtag. Please comment on the scoop content on our Instagram and YouTube, hashtag free the beautiful bald bastards, so that we can tell Farhad what we really think of this decision. Frederic, I know you're heartbroken about this. Do you have anything you want to
I
add?
I am absolutely devastated, but my legal team advised me not to comment on the ongoing situation, so I cannot deny nor confirm the recent light of events that happened in our precious lives. So I'm just gonna keep it at that.
Well, it has been a while since we've been on the air. Frederic, I have missed you, man. How you been?
Miss you too, my brother. Miss you too. Well, I've been pretty good. I took some time off, well-deserved time off, if I might add. Went on a little vacation with the family, enjoyed the sun, the beach, and also the cocktails, as you noticed in our
Yeah.
WhatsApp group. Uh, so yeah, and but to be honest, I missed it, and I'm glad to be able to have this little weekly gathering with you, my friend.
Yeah, I took some time as well, went up to visit Detroit. For those who are not aware, that is where I'm from. So it was a real good time to go back to what I still consider home, despite having left roughly 15 years ago. If anybody is curious about the city of Detroit, considering it is now plastered on Juventus's jerseys, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram at Zach Talks Calcio, and I'll be happy to talk to you a little bit about my home state and city. All right,
Very nice.
before we jump into the sort of the content, this is our first episode since the beginning of the market, and I know there's going to be new folks coming and listening. So I just kind of want to take a step back and tell people new to the program what this is all about. For folks, the many of you who have been listening to us from the beginning, feel free to skip ahead a few minutes until we get into the arrivals where we're going to potential arrivals where we're going to start today. But for people new, just kind of want to go over the three main purposes of this program. The first is to provide you inside information. We're very fortunate to have Frederic, who has contacts within Juventus's organization and who is willing to share, under terms of anonymity, the information about potential transfers, both going in and coming out. So we want to be able to share that with y'all. The second is to provide context on those potential moves. I think a lot of folks sit around waiting for a tweet that somebody is going somewhere or not, without any information of how we got to that point. I think, again, based on Frederic's information, we've been able to provide y'all with some context of why a certain rumor has come up, of why is a player that was heavily linked to us no longer heavily linked. And I think that's been really valuable for me as part of this program to kind of get that inside scoop. And finally, the third purpose of this program is to kind of put everything on one page. I think for folks who are used to this, we do have a good visual component. So if you're just listening or if you're on Apple Podcasts, I encourage you or recommend you maybe go on Spotify video or YouTube so you can see we put up all of the players kind of on a couple slides so that you can get a picture of where kind of all these folks who are rumored with where they stand all in one place. And I think that's also something that's been really valuable for many of our listeners to kind of get that snapshot picture into everything that's going on. The final thing I'll say, and then we'll jump into it, is the way we evaluate a rumor is using sort of a temperature scale. We know these things can go really can change rapidly, but to kind of capture the likelihood at a given point in time, we use temperature from ice cold, meaning whatever deal is extremely unlikely to happen, to red hot, that something is extremely likely to happen. All right, Frederick, did I miss anything?
You did an absolute banger of a job for somebody who's just came back from his short holiday. So
Well, I appreciate it. It has been a while since I've done the spiel, so I feel like it went pretty well. I think it's time to jump into it, though, in the interest of time. So let's go in.
yes,
As always, we start with our list of potential departures. I think I said arrivals before. We always start with our potential departure. These are folks currently with the team. And what is the likelihood that they leave? Or in the case of the first name on our list, Francisco Conceição, what is the likelihood that they return to their parent club?
the likelihood of Chico returning is very, very, very low. I even go in state to say that Chico is at this point for 99.9% a Juventus player. I kind of expected the official announcement today, which hasn't arrived, but he's all but a Juventus player. He denied two Premier League teams. He waived his 20% sign bonus. He did everything possible to stay at Juventus. And as we know, today's the day that his his release clause expires. And this is also subsequently the day that Juventus brought out the official offer of the 30 million signing bonus, diluted in several payments, which Porto already unofficially said that they will accept.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I know that I think a lot of people who follow us on Instagram, we did a should he stay or return, and on Chico, it looked like the overwhelming majority of folks really wanted him to stay. So feel free to continue that discussion in the comments of any Instagram or YouTube post related to this episode, because we want to continue to collect y'all's thoughts on this player that we got a year's worth of experience with, and I'm curious to see if y'all disagree with our commenters on Instagram. The next player on our list, I think most of us do agree on, Dusan Vlahovic. I think his exit has sort of been written on the wall since mid-year, mid-season, I should say, but he's still on our books. Where do we stand with him?
Well, it's a tale of two stories because for now I put him at room temperature. Why is that? Because the concrete offers that we were expecting aren't arriving. I think Juventus also expected AC Milan a week or two ago to push a bit harder for Dusan, but it's all but quiet on that front. As we know, we rejected several Arab clubs. He has no intention of going to play in Saudi Arabia or whatever, Qatar, what have you not.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. I think we are now dependent on a solid offer, and I think if we get an offer in for 20-25 million, which also satisfies Vlahovic, then he'll be gone. But I can't see him carrying out his contract as an active player, to be honest. I don't think that he's going to be somebody that's going to be central in our plan for next season. So let's hope to get rid of him. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it's a very, very expensive expensive player for us, and the added value on the pitch is not there. And that was also communicated to his manager 2 days ago, once again. So let's hope he actively starts searching for several interested clubs.
Yeah, I think there's two things I want to talk about Dushan real quick. The first is that there was a report that we would terminate his contract, and my take on that was that there's absolutely no way that we're going to swallow the hit that would take something upwards of 30 million on our books,
Yeah,
a loss, I should
35.
say. So any rumors to that seem absurd to me, Frederick. Is that the take you're getting from your
It,
conversations with your contacts?
it was suggested by his management, to be
Okay, so it
honest.
was one
And
of
it
those
was,
agent fueled rumor situations
but it
that we
was
were
taken
hearing.
into consideration by management. It was taken into consideration.
Was it
But
rejected or is it still on the table?
I don't know. The ongoing talks are a bit difficult with Vlahovic's management because, well, they try to get the best out of the deal as possible. But Kamoli is certainly not somebody that reluctantly shows his hands very quickly. So it's a bit of a, yeah, how shall I put it, a Mexican standoff at this point.
From a
That's
purely
the correct
financial
word.
standpoint, as a matter of fact, it's cheaper for Juventus to send him to the next gen for a year than to terminate his contract. So I would be baffled if that is the decision they take. I think that another consideration I want to bring up, because a lot of people have said online that Dusan kind of has Juventus by the balls, is that if he doesn't play, he doesn't get called up for the World Cup, most likely. And so I think that's a huge incentive for him to play at least a little bit of ball, certainly more likely later in the window with Juventus to find a new home. Because if he is sent to next gen, there's a very good chance he doesn't get called up to the national team for the World Cup, which would be, I think, devastating. So that is a little bit of a kick in his pants to get to facilitate a move. My take
Yeah,
is,
and
Frederic, that really people aren't that interested in Dushan based on the product he's put on the pitch.
no, and I agree with your second statement too, because some players received their formal invitation for the training camp at the end of July already. Dushan was not one of them for now. I don't know if that's something to go by, but maybe
It could
it's
be
a way to,
posturing, at minimum posturing, right?
yeah.
Um, we know
There's
that
a
we know that the
message there
team
somewhere.
yeah, we know the team has some time off, but that might just be a little bit of a signal. Um, okay, we don't. I think that's enough about Dushan. Let's move on to the next name. We started reporting that there was some interest in him. I think in our last episode, or one of our last few episodes, and I think that the interest in Nico Gonzalez has very much increased, especially from what Saudi Arabia, correct?
Yeah, very correct. A couple of teams. I'm not gonna bother with the pronunciation. But the first time that a Saudi Arabian club reported their interest, Nico was very hesitant. And the second time, when he saw his salary fee, he was a bit more happy. So, needless to say, if I'm not mistaken, I have to double check real quick. My apologies. If I'm not mistaken, he could make twice and a half as much as he's making now at Juventus net. So maybe that's something to persuade our good friend Nico to kick some footballs in the desert. I don't know, but he told his management that he's open for talks. Also, because of the fact that Comoli himself let his management know that he's not in the foreseeable plans for the Juventus future.
So, and two things here. I think the first is with Conceição, and we're going to talk about potential arrivals, one of whom would play that same position, would be seemingly ahead of him in the depth chart. So I think from a playtime standpoint, he was kind of at the outside looking in. I think the second, so that helps with the move. I think the second thing to think about is, but the fee was roughly 30 million reported euro,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, and that would be a book gain uh, on um, on his sale. So that would help
excluding
again.
excluding bonuses, because in Saudi Arabia they work a lot with these add-ons,
Mhm.
um, because they don't have our typical Champions League. The European clubs usually add a lot of things on with Champions League playtime or goal scoring or whatever. And in Saudi Arabia they don't have that, so they put something more local in it. But that also means that not only the player gets financial advantage, but the club of which he's bought too. So it could be a cool 35, 37 mil, which would be awesome for our books at this point.
Needless to say, it seems fairly likely, and we have put it. You have put it as hot. All right, this
Yes.
next name has had a ton of buzz lately. Alberto Costa, with interest from several teams, um, specifically some concrete interest back in Portugal. Where do we stand in the likelihood that he leaves?
Well, it's another tale of two stories, because I have two contacts. One of them says, "Well, I wouldn't put that much trust in the media outlets so far, because there've been some talks and some offers." But Alberto Costa is very happy at Juventus, while another source says, "Well, no, there have been advanced talks, and there are reportedly 7 teams very interested in him." And my contact also stated that it's the intention of Juve to create some sort of an auction, if a bidding war, if I
Hmm.
pronounce this correctly.
That
But
yep.
if he has to leave his his personal interest goes to Porto, seeing that he's Portuguese and all, but he's under Mendes's wings as well. So if Mendes says you're gonna play in Sweden for Helvaskan because I get a lot more money if you go there, then the chances are that it'll end up there. So I think the likelihood of him leaving is pretty warm. It's just as to when and to where is a bit of a gamble at this point. So I'm not gonna pinpoint myself on one team or whatever. So there's some movement, and I think we could see him leave pretty soon, to be honest.
Yeah, if he is truly happy though, and it's proven that Tudor likes him, then he just says, that I'm going to stay at least for a year, um, which I think it would be something I think many Juventus fans would be interested to see how he develops in that time.
Yeah.
Let's go to our other loanee on the list, Randall Colomwani, who I know that we've been working with PSG for a long time to try to get this finalized, but it is not yet. Where do we stand with him?
Well, the ongoing talks have escalated a bit because Juventus thought that this was going to be a walk in the park because, hey, he's on the reserve list of PSG. They don't want him back. We'll get him for, next to nothing and whatever. But PSG is very firm on the obligation to buy clause still. They won't budge. For Juventus, it's very difficult because if you calculate that obligation to buy in, which is set at 45 million. Apart from his loan contract, his salary, and everything, you're looking at a potential signing of 70 to 75 million. So Juventus is very cautious on that, and they're basically depending on the player himself to make a statement towards PSG with his management. From, come on, guys, play a little ball here. Let me, carry out this
Mhm.
season and see what happens. But yeah, as with every loan with option or obligation to buy, we're kind of at the mercy of PSG at this point. So we're still we're still getting in touch with them. We're still trying to convince them, but I don't see this, being resolved in like 2 or 3 days. I think this is going to be one of those long breath things.
And do
But
you think that a lot of people have made this connection, but have you heard from your contacts any sort of connection between Dushan's exit to help then give us whatever money we need to get this one over the edge?
everything that we're doing now, incoming and outgoing, is very linked with each other because Kamoli, I think last week had a management meeting with our new sporting director, with Chiellini, and where they talked about a number of names for the sorry, not a sporting director, technical director.
Hmm.
They talked about some new incoming management transfers, but they also talked about transfers, and Komoli made it very clear that he wants to cover our incoming transfers with outgoing.
Hmm.
So every transfer is linked in one way or the other. Um, if we can get a steal, then we'll go for it. If the player ticks all the boxes, then we won't be hesitant. And also, John Elkann made it very clear that he's willing to sacrifice a bit of financial weight in order to make or rebuild Juventus. But
Hmm.
Comoli's made it very clear that he wants a solid team, management wise, on the pitch, and financially. So it's heavily linked together. Yeah.
Alrighty, well, let's go. Got two more names on the potential departures. Obviously, this is not every player linked at Juventus, where these are just who we select for this episode. It is our intention to get out another one this week as well, where we'll cover some of the other names. But the last two names on our list, the first of which is Timothy Weah. Obviously, been hot on the presses for a potential departure since that really sketchy transfer offer at the end of June with Mbangula, but he's still at Juventus. What are the chances he leaves?
The chances that Tim leaves, I'd say I'd put warm. Why would I put warm? Because he made it very clear that he's not opposed to leaving Juventus. The only difficulty that we have now is finding um, a potential team that wants to buy him under our conditions as well. Uh, we are not going to sell him for 5 million, as reported in several media outlets, or 5 plus 2 or some crazy thing like that. No, we want some money's worth for our player, but Tim has also certain aspects and certain wishes that he wants to see granted, salary wise and team wise,
Hmm.
because there have been four teams that have been very interested in him, including Olympique de Marseille. But he
Hmm.
made it very clear that he wants to play for in a top league. So I'd see him accepting, I don't know, the likes of Wolverhampton, whereas I don't see him accepting Marseille for now or Monaco or whatever. So
Yeah, and we got two warm right wing backs on this list, which would losing both would be, I think, pretty difficult for us, considering we really don't have a replacement yet that we've been linked to. So that's, I think, we might be in by default. Some of these folks might have to stay um, because of that, and I wouldn't be opposed to Wea and Costa staying personally. Last
yeah.
name on the list is the first appearance on the scoop is Fabio Moretti coming back from loan. What's the plan for him this next year?
Well, I don't think we'll enjoy much of Fabio's skills next year at Juventus because a lot of teams are after him. I know. So I read some reports today about Napoli. I think
Hmm.
they've shown interest, but the team that's most in front is Bologna because they already agreed personal terms with Miretti's management. And I think Tudor made it very clear as well that he doesn't see Miretti in his future plans for Juventus, which Miretti already accepted, I think. And he's ready to move forward. But once again, it's Kamoli, it's not Giuntoli anymore. If he leaves, it's going to be on our terms.
Which I appreciate. I feel like we've, as a team, have generally stunk at selling players
Yep.
um, for a while now. So I think I like the fact that we're playing a little bit of hardball. It seems like, before every other team would play hardball with us and we'd overpay for players. And then when we sell players, we always uh, provide discounts, it seems like. So a little bit of hardball on the departure would be great. Um, that completes our list of potential departures today. Again, there are some other folks out there, like another guy returning from loan, Facundo Gonzalez, linked with, I believe, Genoa, as well as other teams, Perrine, Gatti, Douglas Luiz, and the like. We will hope to tackle them in another episode later this week. I think we can, though, switch to potential arrivals. What do you think, Frederick?
Yes, let's go for it.
Alrighty. Well, I should have put Jaden Sancho first on this list because he's probably the sexiest name. But Diego Moreira, just to throw people way off, we're going to start with
Yeah,
a left back from Strasbourg,
yeah.
Diego Moreira, who some folks may have never heard of. Why is he on the list?
He's on the list simply because of the fact that Komoli likes him. He ticks all the boxes that we need or search in our left back. Also, somebody who's well known within the scouting department of Juventus and a whole bunch of Italian teams. So there's a lot of interest for him from other teams as well. But there have been some talks. I think we started talking about him 2 months ago when Kamoli was like semi-official already. So they offered him the double of his salary. That's what I know for sure. Juventus offered. I don't know what he's making now. Haven't investigated. My apologies. Just came back from holiday, a bit tired. But they offered him double of his salaries. Also, his management is handled by Mendes, which makes the negotiation a bit more easier. But and that's the downside. Strasbourg won 30 million. Juventus is maybe able to pay that and wants to pay that, but we need to make room in our squad list. Also, Atalanta are very, very hot on his trail, but Diego Moreira already said to Mendes and his management that he prefers Juventus, really wants this move, so contacts are ongoing. But our priority is now Conceição. So my opinion is that if we get the Conceição deal done officially for the full 100%,
Mhm.
we're going to go all out swinging for Morera, which I don't think is a bad thing because I researched him a bit. I think this could be a hidden gem, in my opinion.
Is the goal that he immediately come in and compete with Cambiasso for the starting job?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty, well, I think that's something that's exciting. We have him as hot. So all of y'all, if this is the first time you heard of Diego Moreira, I think look him up. As this is sort of a new, exciting potential addition to our team. The next name on our list is someone I think that requires little introduction. Jadon Sancho, consistently been linked. I think there's been some conflicting reports depending on whose tweets you listen to. But we're here for a reason, Frederick. We want the real truth of what's going on with Jadon Sancho. So why don't you hit us with it?
The truth is, if we get some players out, Jadon Sancho comes in.
Now,
Everything's
what does that mean, though? What does that mean, though? Is it just a money thing? Like it doesn't matter who leaves, that
no,
we
no,
get
no.
him, or is it like a
It,
Nico Gonzalez leaves?
yeah, it's a Nico Gonzalez leaves because well, they're intertwined. If Nico Gonzalez goes out, we get some money in, meaning that we could get Jadon Sancho without, breaking the bank, so to speak. And also the fact, well, they play the same position. And Tudor
Mm-hmm,
made it very clear that he wants somebody with a bit more pedigree in that department. And Jadon Sancho was obviously almost a Juventus player last season. And he still wants to be a Juventus player. He made that very clear to the management and to Juventus itself too, and also Manchester United is pretty much, agreed with us and the transfer fee. Um, and also, I read reports that United wanted 25 million pounds for him and won't budge, but that's not true. It's gonna be less due to the fact that Sancho is really pushing for this transfer.
mm-hmm.
So
Next to yeah, we'll keep. I mean, that's one we've been really keeping a close watch on because of the name and the profile that he brings. Obviously, no one's going to hide behind the fact that he's had a couple tough years, right? Ever since he moved to Manchester United, it's been a little bit of
yeah,
a
he
rocky
did.
road for him. We're not hiding from that, but
No,
he is a prominent name, so we'll keep this one. On the top of
yeah,
our radar. And folks, if you don't follow us on Instagram at TurinGiants, we do scoops of the day, and I think we've had a couple with regards to him. And so as things come in, we'll post in between episodes scoops of the day on Instagram for
yeah.
y'all.
Can I also spoil his wage or the wage that he accepted from us?
From
Because I
us.
heard people talking, yeah, I saw people talking, yeah, but he makes like 10, 12 million a year. We're not gonna cover that, blah, blah, blah. He accepted our offer of five and a
Well,
half
hold
million.
on. No, this is not the type of program where we give
Sorry,
people helpful information, Frederic. No, we want them
sorry.
to wonder. Okay. No,
Okay.
so what? Tell us. This is why we're here.
Five and a half plus bonus. That's what he'll make if he becomes a Juventus player. That's the terms he accepted.
Really?
I think the bonus is about like two or two and a half, but you have like 70% that's easy to obtain, while 30% is pretty much impossible, like winning the Champions League or scoring in the final or
Hmm.
whatever. So I mean, it's a big difference. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're paying Nico what, four and a half already. So if you look at it financially, it'd be pretty much a straight swap. You get Nico Gonzalez out, you bring Jadon Sancho in, which in my opinion is not a bad deal
Can I put
on
you on the
paper.
spot? I know this is kind of not
Yes,
really the purpose of this show, but can I put you on the spot?
yes.
If Jadon Sancho joined Juventus today, he
Hmm.
would have at 25 years old, he would have the fourth highest goal contribution of anybody on Juventus right now. Fourth. Can you name the three players who are above him or would be above him?
Conceição,
Nope.
Yildiz, and
Nope.
Thuram?
Overall goal contribution. Those are young, those guys are too young.
Shit.
So,
You really put me on the spot there.
I did. Yeah. So this is interesting. There's two players who are old, okay, that have
Yeah.
more goal contributions in at 25. So you have 30-plus-year-old Milik and Kostic, who have amassed more goal contributions than James. I think Jadon Sancho has 145 goal contributions at 25 years old, which is
Okay.
pretty impressive.
Okay. Okay.
The old guys, it's not terribly surprising. Kostic is an assist merchant, has been his whole life. And Milik, before last season, actually was a competent striker. I think
Hmm.
the really exciting thing is is that the only other person who would be above Jadon Sancho if he joined in goal contribution is Jonathan David, who I think has over 30 more goal contributions and is the same age. So I think with Jadon Sancho, a good Jadon Sancho with Jonathan David and Yildiz as attacking trident, that'd be pretty cool.
Yes,
Sorry, I
I'm actually
digressed, but I just
baffled.
thought that was super cool.
No, super cool. I mean, it's good to get this knowledge in. I mean, it's part of the program as well, and it's good to hear, and it's decent knowledge. But the fact that baffles me most is, or which baffled me most is, people saying he had an awful season, he's not that good, he's washed up. But if you look at the statistics, he's actually not. And I mean, let's take into account he's playing for Manchester United. Like that's the only team that's worse than us recent years. Let's be honest here. I mean, yeah, I mean they can screw up a buffet if they need to. I mean, they're hopeless in every aspect. They're even worse than we are. So I mean, it's still Jadon Sancho. I mean, if you look at what we are lacking in terms of creativity and that killer instinct, that killer assist move or what have you,
Mhm.
and you pull out these numbers very randomly, then it starts making sense to me, to be honest. That's just
You
my
need you
opinion.
It does. You need diversity in attack. I think of his 175 goal contributions, he's almost exactly even in goals and assists. I think his ability in tight spaces, both in passing and dribbling, will complement Yildiz and the positioning that Tudor wants these guys to take in the middle of the pitch behind the striker, with Jonathan David, who's also very good on the ball. So I think
Yep.
that the potential is there. I think when people look at the last few years, I think it does bring up reservations. But the salary that you reported, I think is one that's not. There's no sticker shock there. So I think
Mm.
that works and comes in here. That we could be in for some really cool opportunities. Then you bring Conceição off the bench. Um, I think that could be real scary maybe even a statement attack from Juventus.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we digressed a little bit, so let's kind of fly through the rest of these names. Certainly, the next two goalkeepers who fans of Serie A should be familiar with: Emil Aldero and Lorenzo Montipo. We didn't have Perrin on the potential departures on the last slide because he's not eager to leave unless the right starting offer comes in. But these two would be potential replacements. And we have them listed at the same temperature, room temperature. What's going on behind the scenes with Perrine and these two,
Um,
Frederic?
well, Perrin has made it very clear that he needs more playing time. He communicated communicated that to the Juventus management, but Juventus management very smartly said, "Well, it's the coach's decision." And we all saw what Tudor had in store for him last season. I don't think much is going to change.
Hmm.
So if a good offer comes in, but also there, Juve is very firm. We want 8 to 12 million, no more,
Hmm.
no less.
That's kind of more than I would have. I mean, not to say that Perrine's not a good goalkeeper, but he's 30, 31 or something like that as a backup
Hmm.
keeper. That's a strong asking price. I think
Yeah.
again, maybe more indicative of management who knows how to sell players than in
I
years
don't.
past.
I would assume that he's gathered some interest also from the Premier League, and I think that decides his market price a bit because if you see
Fair.
the prices that are being paid right now in the Premier League, it's above insanity. So
Hmm.
if you look at it that way, then 8 to 12 million for a Perin in the Premier League is not that far of a stretch, I think.
All right, moving on. Next name on the list is, if you maybe were tuning into the Club World Cup, you might have seen Facundo Bernal, center midfielder for Fluminense. What's the story?
Well, the story is that he was offered to us, so to speak. And we showed some interest, but for now it's a bit, well, Fluminense is very keen on their players and always thinks that they have the best midfielders and attackers in the world. So they put up an asking price, which is, yeah, ridiculous. I'm gonna say it's just ridiculous. They asked for 45 million euros. because we're Juventus, we have a lot of money from Europe, blah 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 blah. So that's not gonna happen on those terms. But
Yeah.
they're keeping in touch with his management as well because
Hmm.
the player really ticks the boxes that Kamoli suggested for new center midfield. So, but I'd put him at goal right now. It could escalate real quickly depending on Fluminese's negotiation skills or Komoli's bad stares. So we'll see what happens. But there's been some contact, but nothing to be scoop of the day worthy.
Gotcha. Well, this next name is really, really out there. Paco Esteban is a reserve forward for Real Betis, a young kid.
Yes.
Um, is his name here? Is he just a next gen thing, or what should we expect from this deal and this player?
I expect that's my opinion as a next gen player because we made an offer according to my source, not a real like solid 20 plus million euro offer. But we made him a nice offer. We made a nice offer to Betis. So I think the Juventus plan is to buy him, to get him into next gen, to see what he's worth, and maybe sell him for plus Valenza, or aggregate him to the first team next year. They really see something in him.
Hmm.
I had no idea who he was, to be honest. So I had to search some a bit, but yeah, it's not a big deal financially, but it's a deal nonetheless. I put him at room temperature because the first offer that we made was, I think, 4.3 million euros, which was declined. And
Hmm.
I'm not too sure about the fact if Juventus are going to push for more. It was more like,
Gotcha.
we want him, this is our price. If you don't want to sell, that's okay. So,
Gotcha. Alrighty, let's move to the last name for today's episode. Captain of Sporting, Morten Hjulmand, who Serie A fans may remember from his stint at Lecce.
yes, yes. Well, his name popped up due to the ongoing negotiations between Sporting and Juventus for Alberto Costa. So Juventus just asked, "Hey, this Yeoman guy, you see him leaving, you see him staying. What are we going to do about that?" But Sporting made it very clear that they don't want to mix up the two players, or the negotiations between them. But Porto made it also very clear that if there's solid interest, if there's something that can be arranged, they're willing to take it to the next level after they've done the deal with Alberto Costa. So I think Juventus is now debating whether to be gentlemanlikely and let Costa leave for a fair price in order to get that favor returned for Yulmand, which I doubt, to be honest. But there has been no talk about pricing or whatever. Yulmand himself did actually say that he'd like a return to Italy. So we'll see what happens there. I'm not too crazy about the player myself, to be honest. I don't think this is a player you need to splurge on. But like, yeah, I mean, it's Kamoli's thing. Like, let him do his
Hmm.
work. We'll see what happens. But this will, if something will happen, it will happen after the Costa deal.
Gotcha. Just real quickly as we wrap up this episode, you had mentioned our technical director, and then Tognozzi came. His name has been tossed back around in the potential sporting director realm. Do you have an update on sporting director, or is that
Yeah.
still kind of being fleshed out
hmm
by management?
No, it's most likely going to be Tognozzi. It was always Tognozzi from the start. I think I
Hmm.
reported that in our first episode as well.
Yes.
Why it didn't happen that quickly, I don't know. I think that Kamoli wanted the majority of people involved to agree with that.
Hmm.
From what I'm hearing is that Chiellini wasn't too um, convinced, but it seems that they've convinced Chiellini now. Because if Tognozzi comes, it means that Chiellini will lose a bit of a stake in the pecking order within Juventus. So I think it's going to be Tognozzi. What I do know for sure is that they narrowed it down to three people, including Tognozzi. All three of them gave basically their word on if a deal can be made that they'll join Juventus. So now it's up to Comoli and our other directors or management to tie the knot, so to speak.
Gotcha. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of The Scoop. Um, all listeners, Frederic, I missed you. I missed doing
I
this.
miss
I'm
you too, man.
glad we're back. Like I said, we're going to try to do, I think we have another episode recording queued up later this week. Stay tuned for that, as well as our scoops of the day on Instagram. In the meantime, as always, Forza Juve and free the beautiful bald bastards.